Good morning, Bob Sokoler, Louisville Real Estate Show, News Radio 840, WHAS. Hello.
Hi, Bob.
Hey.
This is George.
Yeah.
Why do some seller agents want to be at the house when the buyer and buyer agent comes to see the home?
George, that's a great question. So there are, and I'm going to be very honest, and Lee, look at me sternly if I step over the line here. There are some agents or brokerages that basically use that as a selling technique, saying to the seller, listen, we will be here at every showing to show off the house. But from my standpoint, from where I sit, that's the worst thing that you could do as a seller agent or as a seller wanting to have somebody there. It makes it difficult. And I use a very simple concept here. So, Lee, I'm going to use you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Playing my game here.
Sure.
So you're out shopping, you go into a store, and you walk in, pick any store, and a salesperson comes up and says, may I help you? What do you say?
Sure.
No, you say sure? Now, I would tell you that most people just answer
I lost the game.
Yeah, you lost.
I'm just looking.
I'm just looking is the normal answer. But again, this is a great note for anybody who sees Lee Harris in their store. Go up to her. She's looking for help. Yeah. No, typically they say, I'm just looking. Because people don't want to be bothered. And here's the real point about this, and that is if you're a seller agent and you're at a house, you're going to show off the things that the seller wants you to show off, but the buyer typically won't have any of the same interests. You know, maybe the seller wants to point out the kitchen, so the seller's agent is there to point out the kitchen, but the buyer wants to see the garage. They want to see how much family room space, what's the basement look like, what's the master bedroom suite. So it never meshes. And I will tell you from being on both sides, both on the seller side and the buyer side, the buyers set up a series of trusts with the agent as they're walking through. If there's a seller agent there, the buyer is thinking, and the buyer's agent, that the seller's agent is over listening to what they're saying to report back to the seller. And that defeats the purpose of the buyer having a private showing of the home to be able to see whether or not they like it. It just ruins the whole atmosphere So
I got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as a seller's agent, which you often are, what advice do you give to your sellers when the home inspectors show up?
I tell them not to be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell them not to be there. Okay. And I don't want to be there, and I would suggest that to other agents. And the reason is because as a home inspector, I want you to feel like you can look through the home unencumbered and without somebody over your shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I think do you find a lot of agents there, seller agents there?
Not so much seller's agents, but many times the seller wants to be there to help give us the history of the home.
Yeah.
So which is not really any part of the home inspection itself.
Right.
So,
it actually slows you down,
yes,
I think.
right,
but also it could derail. I would think, are you trying to derail me from doing my job?
It causes us to look for other clues.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. Yeah. So listen, sellers, if you want to be there while the inspector is there, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because Brad just said they're going to look for more clues because they're wondering why you're trying to potentially take them off the track that they're on.
Exactly.
That is a really good point. All right.